do that. They'll use just all deeps. And so the reason why most people tend to use a smaller honey super is if a smaller honey super is full, it's about maybe 45 pounds of weight to carry. A brood chamber like this that's completely full is pushing 90 pounds. And so just the physical amount of work that it takes to take it off and carry it becomes a real hassle. But yes, you certainly could use all of it.
No, a super.
A super, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so it's about, again, 90 pounds. And that's a lot to kind of carry on your fingertips with the little cutouts. But the commercial guys definitely do that, yes.
So how long does it take to fill on the honey super?
It varies. You know, sometimes you can have them fill in maybe 2 weeks during the height of the honey.
It's just start switching them out.
Yep, you start switching them out or you just start adding more on top. And that's kind of the picture I showed you a little while ago where there were like 10 or 12 honey super stacked up. What beekeepers will do, and again, we'll get into this when we start talking about in 2 weeks. Oh, it's 4:30. I'll try to be brief. In 2 weeks, what we'll talk about then is how does the succession of this equipment roll into the behavior in terms of when do I add honey supers, when do I add brood chambers, all that kind of stuff. 2 weeks for the calendar.
I think population, could you just touch on that? The, time of year versus how many bees are in your
Yeah.
hive, because that may clear up how much honey's made at what time of year.
Let's hold that thought, because we're already at 4:30 and I don't want to keep folks too late.
Okay.
That'll be where we pick up next time is, again, the idea with this is to sort of introduce you to the equipment. The next lecture is going to be how does that equipment get used and sort of what succession and how does that relate into behavior. Really quickly on the honey supers, just take a look in your catalogs and you'll see the type of supers. This is the type of super that you would use if you're going to make liquid honey. They're the sizes and the types of foundation. The inner and outer covers are pretty straightforward. The queen excluder, you don't have to buy one now. You may not need this until really late August, so don't stress out if you don't get one of these right away. My one point about a queen excluder, please invest and buy a queen excluder that's made with these wire rods. There are queen excluders that are sold that are made of metal that have been punched out, like the one on this bottom right-hand corner. This is a sheet of metal, or it could be a piece of plastic, where they have used a die to punch that out. And the problem is it's left a very sharp edge. And as those workers are walking through that, it tears their wings. And as I mentioned earlier, they can't molt, can't grow new wings, therefore very depressed amount of honey construction. There are various types of feeders. We'll get into that down the road. When you first install your package of honeybees, you're going to want to feed them a balanced diet. Obviously, they don't have honey, so you're going to feed them syrup that's made out of sugar. Go into that next time. And so you'll need some way to deliver that liquid to them. There are top feeders. There are Boardman feeders, which are what we used to use to kind of feed the little baby chickens. A fairly simple design. And so these go into the front of the hive, as kind of shown in the bottom right-hand corner there, or a top feeder. This one's manufactured by Man Lake. It's largely just an open container that will allow you to pour the liquid into. It goes on the very top of the hive, and the bees come up from underneath to sort of get the syrup out of it. It would sit actually just like that. There are lots of kits that are available in these catalogs. It would certainly save you probably some time. But it may not have everything that you need. For example, this one here, it's got a different kind of feeder on it that I'm not a huge big fan of. But at the same time, take a look through your catalogs. It's just an opportunity for you to look through and see what kind of things are there. This sort of goofy idea was, a couple of years ago, an engineer decided to get various parts from various manufacturers and stack them together to answer the question, can you interchange them? And how tight are the tolerances, the perfect spacing in between all of these? And for the most part, the answer is no. Some of these, this mother load is a horrible one. So it got a green score if it still matched, got a yellow score if it was close, and it got a red score if it was just terrible. And you see how much red is up there. And what I think is a little bias is that even, for example, Rossman, if we just look down Rossman to Rossman, there's only 2 little boxes here that are green, so it's red. So I'm not a big fan of this study. The only reason I'm mentioning it is that typically, if you're looking at this sort of big picture, stay with one manufacturer. That might give you the best chance for you to get the type of equipment that's going to have the right proportions. Very big bullet point, the reason I'm keeping you 5 minutes late. under no circumstances do I ever want you to buy used equipment, especially when it comes to the hive components themselves. If you want to buy used equipment for extraction and knives and that kind of stuff, fine. Never, ever, ever buy used boxes, used frames, used anything as a beginning beekeeper. And the reason is, you have no idea why that person stopped keeping bees. Classic example, I had a student many years ago who had an uncle who kept bees, but the bees died, he didn't know why, and the stuff's in the basement. Do you want it? She was like, sure. She shows up in our apiary, riddled with European foulbrood, but she wouldn't have known the difference. And so now she's invested in all this other things, bought bees, and spent all this money, only to find out that the equipment that she had was just riddled with disease. And so we fought that for a long time, trying to get that cleared up. If you buy brand new equipment that comes from a manufacturer, it will have no disease, brand new equipment. Whereas the stuff you get off of Craigslist or eBay or wherever, you have no idea, and you're not real good yet at diagnosing diseases, and so you could end up with a fairly significant problem that you then just, it degrades your first year experience because you're fighting disease. You don't get to see the positive things that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of weeks. So stay away from used equipment. Top bar hives, you know, we can talk about that later, but my final comments, you know, you can definitely plan on about $600 to maybe even $800 to get the equipment for 2 hives, which I recommend that if you're starting, start with 2 hives, because you'll have one hive and you'll have the second one. You can always compare one to the other. Whereas if you just have one hive, you may not know, well, is this doing right or doing wrong? I'll give you lots of pictures, but having 2 hives next to each other will really let you compare the 2. Stay away from that used equipment. Don't try to build your own unless you really are an accomplished carpenter. Finally, you know, bees sting and you'll get stung, but it hurts, but I think it's really worth the experience. They're a fascinating insect to work with. And I think the program that we're trying to design this year is really going to give you a great opportunity. So thanks for your attention. Be sure to get my email address and cell and home number. Call with any questions. As you're reading through these catalogs, if you have questions, call me or email me, or I'm happy to be here for you.
What's the Wednesday session?
Yeah, so Wednesday, the first Wednesday class is this